pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary Sonoma, roll call, Jason.
Much better.
Had and absent, excused, Dave Giovanni.
Okay, honoring students and citizens of the month, and I know we have somebody special here to honor. So I would like to call Carson Strandel and family to please come up to accept your recognition.
That's close. Not sure which one's Carson. They're twins.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
This is Mason and this is Carson. They are twins.
Okay.
And tonight we're recognizing Carson. So Carson, I'm going to read what your teachers, why they chose you for this award, okay? It says, Carson is putting forth effort in all he does. Carson will ask if he can help others when he has completed his work. He also has made so many wonderful choices in the classroom this year. When we have class discussions on behavioral choices, Carson always has a great perspective on the situation and offers lots of solutions to his classmates.
That's excellent.
yeah.
Good job.
So this is for you. I'll give that to you, and then we're gonna take a picture, okay? You wanna hold it up so that Mr. Koshar can see it? And you can sneak in the picture too, Carson.
I love that
Smile. I'm gonna sneak in too.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Good job.
All right. Yay.
So, late grader.
They're in second grade, I think.
And you are free to leave.
Didn't have to twist his arm. Anyways, grab your jackets.
But you're welcome to stay.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely, always welcome to stay. There is another honoree that was not able to be here tonight, Ashlyn Anderson, and we hope she can join us at one of the later meetings. Okay, community youth advocate introduction.
We were gonna have Amanda here, but she told me she.
I was gonna say,
Wedding, just, I think
Okay.
she traveled for a wedding.
well, we will,
So we might have
Look.
done our dates with her.
that's all right. We will get our introduction at some later time. And Pat Qualman is excused, so we will table the board correspondent reports. So moving right along, board CISA report, Mick.
Couple things. There is, on February 21st, Ken Williams is going to be doing he's the guest speaker for this seminar at Green Bay West on redefining ready. If anybody stopped at the CISA 7 booth, they were giving these things out, explaining it a little bit. And then there's also Professional Learning Communities, the Trainer Academy that we're sponsoring. So I don't know if anybody stopped to pick them up, but I think you should have all gotten emails from Mr. Dickert on all this stuff. Then, I don't have the date on this, and I apologize for that. Dr. Joseph Hill is doing a leadership day. And I think when I tell you what it's all about, it'll sound very familiar to us here in Algoma. It's all about building relational trust and what drives it, setting priorities, developing others, leading teams, developing and bringing it to the administrators, and he's really promoting that a healthy culture is linked to student performance.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Spread.
yeah.
Spread.
And I stopped at the booth, and Colleen Tim wanted to know why we were signing up for some of this stuff. It's old news to us, really. And then there's also a new free service that CISA 7 is partnering with CISA 5, and it's an administrator licensure helpline. It should have gotten underway on January 2nd, and that's about it, what's going on in CISA. Did anybody stop at the CISA 7 booth?
I did not.
No?
so-
Okay.
Oh.
But you should have gotten emails
Yeah.
on, if you wanted to attend any of this stuff.
So the other thing was in what he had sent us was that legal seminar in Manitowoc.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up too.
February 11th.
Yes.
from 12:45 to 4.
Yep.
I don't know if we have to sign up ahead of time, do you know?
I would,
Okay,
February, yeah, that's a Tuesday, that's not gonna
yeah.
work. Oh, I'll be in Florida, guess that's not gonna work for me.
Does that work for anybody?
The 12th or 11th?
11th, it's a Tuesday.
Not sure.
I've already signed up to go.
Okay, yeah, because I'm
You are?
thinking, I'm
Okay.
gonna try and go to that as well, so.
So
yeah,
what,
take
what's the time
advantage
on
of
that?
12:45 till 4. I think it, actually, looking at the agenda, it was closer to 3:30 that maybe it was tying up, but I'm gonna try and get to that. When they offer things that don't cost anything, it's sort of nice to take advantage of it.
Yep. I do have some information on that we had at the last meeting on this, redefining ready, and
Okay.
so if anybody wants to take a look at it, you know,
Okay.
I got it here.
Any questions or comments from Nick? All right, we don't have a student representative here, so we're gonna keep moving. Board president announcements. I had received this letter from the Wisconsin High School Forensics Association, and I would like to read it. On behalf of the Wisconsin High School Forensic Association, I extend congratulations to Algoma High School, Director Jeff Deere, and the cast of the play Oz for their outstanding achievement at the 2019 State Theater Festival held November 21st to the 23rd at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. They received the All-State Award for their production, commemorating their participation in the state festival. Additionally, the production earned Ensemble Award, Outstanding Acting, Cara Anderson as Beth, Addison Bear as Scarecrow, Anthony Nazi as Tin Man. I hope your students attended the many educational workshops as well as view other plays that were advanced to the state contest. It was truly a celebration of high school theater. You should be extremely proud of the theater program at Algoma High School and the accomplishment of this entire cast and crew who represented you in such an outstanding manner. I look forward to their continued participation in future festivals. So I wanted to share that.
It was a great production.
Extend.
It was wonderful.
good.
Yes, it was very good.
All right. Other than that, we had a very successful school board convention in Milwaukee. And I guess, nice to be back, though.
Yeah,
I was
it's always nice.
filled with new ideas and reinforcement of what we're already doing. I think that's what, you know, as you say, sort of old news. Inspiring moments, a lot of reinforcement that we are on the right track. And it is very, very encouraging that more and more of the sessions are related to equity, related to social-emotional learning. Seems to be a universal feeling that testing is not really the way to go. So I think things are generally moving in the right direction, and hopefully, with enough consensus, we can, you know, maybe have some legislative change in the future. So that's, I felt very hopeful about that. All right, moving on to administration reports. Superintendent's report, Nick.
The Wellness Center obviously continues to do some great things. The indoor winter market is underway. They have 2 more scheduled for February 16th and March 15th. They're hoping for a great turnout from the community on those events. Pickleball nets, the 2 new pickleball nets have been a huge hit. I see someone shaking their head, so.
Yeah, awesome.
They're much sturdier and come on wheels for easy transporting around the gym, and glad we can be responsive to that. The other piece that Zach gave me is just a comparison of kind of our current revenue generation and people checking in. I can send this on to you guys as well, but total member check-ins for reference in 2017 was 14,144. This year, 35,566.
Whoa. Nice increase.
Financials from 2017, and Teal can probably do a better job explaining like what's all in this, but 23,000 in 2017 and then 38,000 in 2019. So you can see, obviously, great things are going on down there, and I know that when we hired Zach, we talked about what he could bring to that area and his background and his expertise, and I think that's on full display, so super proud of him and all the stuff that he's done with that, and it's paying off.
Do you want to just highlight the indoor market, again, what that is, since we have an audience that might, again?
Yeah, so they have an indoor winter market. The next ones will be February 16th and March 15th. And they utilize the gym space primarily, and obviously lots of local stores, but trying to get a presence, obviously, on the traditional growing season, for people to come together and
So
can't
what
remember, I
kinds of
think
things are
Casey-
there? I guess
Casey
that's,
Brewers.
So it could be anything from, very small things that are grown like microgreens to, other winter vegetables that they're able to sell year round or grow year round. They also have local goods like honey or jam. Some actually still sell like apple cider or apples. There's crafts that people make. Kyle Gow, for example, brings in his goat milk chapsticks and soap and other things like that. So there's a wide range. It's anything that's homemade that people have that they're selling. We sometimes have the coffee place from Sturgeon Bay that I can't think of. I know that they have anywhere from minimum of 10 vendors. I think they've had up to almost 18. So it's
Excellent.
growing.
yeah.
Our Algoma's always struggled when we didn't have a facility to have winter markets. They have a great one in the summer, but of course they need somewhere in the winter.
Sap Happy maple syrup there?
Sap Happy's there.
And what
They have some
time?
New products.
The time frame is what?
I believe it is, that's a good question. I think it's 11 to 1.
Okay,
I think it's a 2-hour. That I'd have to look into.
okay.
I know they had explored that and changed it. It's usually after a lot of our religious organizations and their services that we can accommodate others that maybe are attending those services on Sunday morning, and then they go into the afternoon. So
Okay.
I think the accommodation of the bathrooms has been really helpful in just the weather, so.
Although the 15th, did you say? Or the
16th.
16th, so that is a Sunday. Okay,
March
excellent,
Up to time.
March
I really
15th.
don't know the time, I should know that.
excellent.
I'm looking for it, I guess.
Okay,
The PAC, they have the Double Grand Night at the PAC, February 22nd at 7 p.m., featuring Peter Nielsen, Michael Swedberg, David Robertson, Megan Nevue, Liz Malott, and local piano students, Vicky Lou, Michaela Massey, Zach Mitchell, Nick Schrader, and others. Admission is free. Donations will be accepted at the door. There are only approximately 20 double grand pianos that exist in the world. This is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I know that.
Mr. Robertson has been training this past year, the whole year, for this event.
And I know Peter comes here periodically to tune our pianos. He's quite the guy. So it's nice to see
He
him.
brings the piano.
Nick,
Put
the
that in.
times are, or Barb, the times are 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
okay.
And they will have soaps, syrups, clothing, jewelry, food, and much more.
Great.
January pupil count, I submitted number of 737. The fall number was 746. I think part of that is due to how open enrollment actually plays out nowadays. I've shared in the past that the alternative open enrollment application means that you can basically open enroll. Open enroll whenever you want, for whatever you want, and one of the trends that we see now is if we have to send out a truancy notice or we have a discipline concern, we almost immediately now get an open enrollment. And it's really, really difficult to, ignore that, so when you follow policy and handbooks and, you have standards and things like that, it can be quite frustrating. So I just think that it's important that people understand that, open enrollment, has some unintended consequences to it. So when you try to, make certain things an important piece, like attendance, which is a state law. People just kind of circumvent that and just go to a different place, and it gets really frustrating, because it really has nothing to do with the actual school or the system. It has everything to do with people wanting to dodge consequences for their actions, so, bad part of open enrollment, so. What matters report card, you all have a copy in front of you. When he talked about, Nick was talking about redefining ready, I think this is redefining ready.
I agree.
So, I know that we've put a lot of thought into this. I know that we have led with the school board's goals, which I want to point out are obviously written through an equity-based lens, which I think is unique and is not a universal concept in public education. And I think what we're trying to do is to highlight to our community, to our students, to parents, that there is a lot of stuff going on in the school district that has a major impact, certainly on our community, certainly on them as parents, certainly on our students. And it's just really nice to see what I would call much more accurate representation of our school district, rather than a school report card that utilizes biased standardized testing and tries to snapshot districts. It's just not an accurate way of looking at things. So I'm not gonna go through everything, but I think the goal is to use the school board goals as the drivers, and then illustrate all of the work that we've done on each of those and how it plays out. Obviously, there's some highlights here. I don't think every school in the state of Wisconsin is sending students to college and they're starting as juniors. I don't think that's a common theme. On average, when kids utilize opportunities that are given to them, they're saving, well over $5,000. That's excellent. Believe it or not, that's a challenge for us, is to get kids to maximize the opportunities that are in front of them. I think some of the stuff that we've done with our staff really pays off. For the most part, our people, once they come to Algoma, they stay in Algoma. And they make this their career, and they make this their community. And we're proud of that. I think certainly the opportunity for all, we talk about this endlessly in this district, about all means all. It's not just some kids, it's all kids get opportunities, and make sure that we can elevate students regardless of their background or maybe the trauma that they've experienced. Certainly some of those bright spots are a testament to that. I think frankly, fiscally, there are a lot of people that are envious of our position, and a lot of that is due to, I think while we are innovative and we look at things through an equity-based lens, we're also not going to our community and asking for millions of dollars all the time. We are good stewards of the funds that we are provided, and I think we do a phenomenal job at providing an education well below the state average cost per student. And I think that, certainly is a reflection of school board and Jason's work, and I think everybody trying to work together to maximize what we have. And then the last piece, the community and world connections, and I know as a school board, that was a priority for us, and we no longer focus on just a small community. We have partners from around the globe, and those partnerships really elevate our work. And I think some of the things that we are doing garner us a lot of attention on a statewide level, certainly on a national level. And I think there are even better things to come from that. So I think, this is
Well,
the
just what
true
you say.
Algoma School District.
Measures that matter. I like that. That is exactly.
And
What
to
this
tie
is.
it back to the school board convention, I mean, the first keynote presenter, didn't exactly light everyone's socks on fire, but, what that individual talked about is stuff that we started doing 5 years ago. And when he ended his presentation with basically saying, do what matters, I just have to smile because that's been our mission. That's what we do. That's how we view things. And, at times that ostracizes us from the others who are not doing that. And it takes some courage to kind of stand out there on that island and do what's right for kids. Because in my opinion, it's really easy just to sit back and play in the system. We want to reinvent the system for all kids, so.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna take any credit for making this look pretty. That's all Teal. Certainly, as an admin team, we, have a lot of stake in this game, but, as far as numbers and things like that, but thanks to Teal for making it look much better than I would.
And Katie for her editing right now, because she's calling people good mistakes.
So, yeah, I mean, this is
Are
for
we-
you guys right now, but we're gonna obviously, there's some things on here that we have to check out.
Center
but
bidder,
you,
yeah,
you're the first ones to
excellent.
get your hands on that, and then get that out to our community so that
Yeah.
they can kind of chew on that. And, certainly at this level, we'll be having scheduling night coming up a little bit later than we have in the past, just because we originally had planned it on.
Yeah, this is excellent.
Given the emphasis on equity at the state convention.
Yep.
You said that we were looking at things through an equity lens that was not usual. Do you expect that norm to change within the state? I think they heard repeatedly equity, they heard repeatedly relevance. They talked about challenging students, not so much to be sitting in their seats, receiving and regurgitating, but giving them a real-life, real-world problem to deal with, to develop the skills that they'll need for after high school.
I certainly hope that the emphasis that's being put on equity from the state, helps school districts start looking at this, but I went to the equity conversation, and you had individuals, superintendents that ran, very, very large school districts in the state, and you had a member from Menominee Nation, you had a administrator from MPS, Milwaukee Public Schools, and a school board member from Monona Grove, and there's a lot of hard conversations that still have to be had about how we look at things through an equity lens, because certainly, if you look at the Madisons and the Milwaukees of the world, we still have, the largest educational achievement gap between black and white students in the country. So we have a lot of conversations that need to be had. And I think I see now a willingness for people to come to that conversation, to sit alongside of somebody and understand the history of that, but then say, how do we fix it? How do we make sure that every student, regardless of where they go to school, is afforded the same opportunity at a quality education? And I would like to say that I think certainly DPI and others are recognizing that that's how we need to lead, because you think of Milwaukee Public Schools, it's $1 billion budget, okay? And think of all of the children that are left behind in Milwaukee Public Schools because of equity issues. So I think we, the Algoma School District, having school board goals that are very, very clearly written through an equity focus, is at the cutting edge. And I think it gives others the opportunity to say, I think we might want to look at some things. And I hope that when they have those conversations, that they have the courage to kind of face some of those challenges. Certainly, when I started here, we had challenges where there was some inequity, and we needed to address that, and I think we have. So I'm hopeful about the future. I'm hopeful about, different stakeholders being at the table for a conversation about equity. People that have traditionally been systematically disconnected from our systems. I know that's how we operate in Algoma. I mean, it's very rare for us to have a conversation without all the stakeholders. And if we feel like there isn't someone at the table that needs to be at the table, we get them there. And I think that's what gives me the most hope, that we can be a model for that. And it's hard work. It's messy, and it's really hard to have those conversations with people that have had, it's been this way for a long time,
Well,
Why do we need to change, Nick? Why do we
the
need to do
issue
this?
is, there are so many factors coming together at the same time. There's the realization, finally, of the inequities. Equal doesn't mean equitable. I mean, that is finally, but it's also the realization that our current educational system needs totally revamping. We have to totally look at it through a different lens in terms of what our kids are gonna need for the future.
Yeah.
That just becomes more and more obvious. So everybody's sort of struggling with, what does that look like? And part of that is just we're guessing in a way. So all of this change is sort of happening at once and needs to, if we're gonna be ready. But, time after time, again, our speakers talked about, the typical classroom, like you said, sitting in a chair and regurgitating facts just isn't gonna prepare them for the future. We have recognized that. We're trying to get our arms around it. But as a system, it's gonna take some work. And if we can, as a small incubation, kind of prove success here, that, and share it, the systems that have, 100,000 students in them, you can see how that would be sort of overwhelming. I mean, not only all of their buildings and everything else, everything is set up for the old way of doing it since 1919 or whatever.
I believe our job is harder in some respects because in the larger school districts, you have known neighborhoods that help you identify. For us, the identification is more on the individual level, and the awareness of staff and administration and the board has to be that much keener in order to identify, in order to provide the equity that's needed for that education. So in that respect, our job is harder in a rural school district because for the most part, we all pretty much look the same, but we aren't all the same.
Yeah, that is a very good point.
And I think, that's highlighting the tough conversations, right? And while we may look the same, our opportunities and how we are treated can be vastly different. And I think, you know, where some school districts have, you know, this wide range of race and, I mean, socioeconomic status in our community is a huge piece. And inherently, that's a tough conversation.
Yeah.
And I think, especially for people that have lived here a long time, that, you know Nick, you know Joanne, you know John, and, you know, to have that conversation about why is this the third generation of that? Why is this continuing to happen? So, I agree with you, John, those are very difficult conversations, and I think the more that we kind of unify around the approach of, we're not having this conversation to create division, we're having this conversation to take everybody and say, how can we give everybody that same opportunity? Notice I didn't say same outcome,
Right.
it's the same opportunity, right? And that's what it is.
But that also means that your staff has an additional challenge, especially if they've been in the community for a long time, not to be lulled into thinking, oh, it's that family.
That's right.
And not immediately, you know, have children who are attending, who happen to have that name or the, you know, family relationship, you know. It means nothing.
Yep.
But the individual and their abilities and their willingness to invest in themselves as well as take what we can provide to them in terms of opportunity is a very important piece of this.
Hey, probably 95% of us, if you have a sibling that went through school ahead of you, right?
Yep.
We all have had that experience. Well, you're just like your sibling.
Brother, your sister.
And,
Or why aren't you like?
yeah, or why aren't you?
Why aren't you more alike?
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah, that's very, very true. Quite well taken.
Any other discussion along that? Very impressive. I like this, measures that matter.
At some point.
Once all the little.
So, I mean,
revisions
just
have
to
been
give
read.
you a reference on that, so I was thinking about giving some narrative to that, but we thought this could just be its own standalone, because
I think so.
one page has to be postage and all that stuff, so it
Right.
actually works well as that. I'm anticipating lots of questions after we send this out, so perhaps I'll do a follow-up, kind of narrative about that. Because I would actually hope that something like this would generate questions, or at the very least, some interest in, you know, how do we get involved, or how can I realize that same, you know, opportunity for my student? So I just hope that we can use this as kind of a catalyst for continued conversation.
Will it be apparent that all of the gold bands, ribbons
Our
are in
school board
fact the district board's goals?
Yeah, we talked about that in our admin thing, about trying to put something that school board goal number one, or, you know, calling that out, that these are school board goals.
I
And
think
these
like
are,
helpful, like, I know Jason had talked these have to go out in groups of 4, so the whole review has to be like in a group of 4, right? So we tried to, I don't know that we can extend the pages of this, but what would be helpful from you guys is like language. So we spent a lot of time on fiscal responsibility, because it's really hard to explain to someone who's gonna get this in the mail what equalization tax is. So we were trying to have language that others could understand, and Jason was really helpful when it came to things like Wolf Den. You know, we didn't have after-school program, and he's like, you know, if my parents grabbed this, they wouldn't know what Wolf Den was. So things like that, you know, maybe ask a spouse at home or a friend to look at some of the language, what doesn't make sense, would be really helpful on our part, for, you know, for sure, because we know what this stuff means, but doesn't mean that somebody else outside of the school district knows what that means.
Okay,
And I think that's why we put two up, it's a board goal summary, but we have
But I
to
can
figure out
definitely
some way to call out, like, high student achievement, that is one of our goals.
You could
And then,
probably fit in pretty easily goal number 1,
Yep.
goal number 2 in, without having to change too much of the position.
You know, you could put goal in real little letters,
Yeah.
and that would be fine. I just want them to understand that that you're working with a broad general category that we gave you to work with.
Yep.
That's important.
that's good.
Well, and everything should flow from our board goals.
Yep.
Absolutely. Top down, and everybody needs to embrace them, so.
Before we let you go, do you have any word on when there'll be the open house on the greenhouse? And
I don't,
show off all
I'll
of
talk
Ms.
to Penny.
Lember's accomplishments with fish and food?
TL, do you remember, did Penny give us a date? I remember something about March, her saying March,
Nicer weather.
because she would be starting everything, and
Have a
I
little
think
more.
right
Just
now
like
they're
her.
still experimenting with like the quantity and what they're going to, she's doing a lot of diversification right now to experiment on what's gonna work well and what's not.
There's a
So-
lot of community interest in
Yeah.
what's going on there and people wanting to.
Yeah, she's had a couple of small tours. I know, for example, Bonnie Kenny was taking her daily walk with the Bonnie Club and they came and peeked in, and so I anticipate when she does have it, when she's got things a little figured out, and when it's nicer weather, that there's gonna be a lot of community interest, and, I mean, I predict that that is only gonna expand with community members being a vital part of that with our students, so.
I'll follow up with her.
I actually wanna think it was later than March. I thought she thought maybe like that April, May. Cause she also wants to showcase.
She wants to
Right.
optimize, I mean, I totally understand it. She doesn't want people to walk in there and just see green plants. She wants stuff that's flowering, stuff that's ripe, like
Sure.
color, because obviously,
I think,
You know, I will say that they have, this is a bright spot for Penny, and I can't, don't quote me on the stats, but she now supplies, maybe Jason, with product for the lunchroom. But I think now they have it down to the science, how much they need to grow to
Yeah.
put on the salad bar every day.
Yep.
So she's got that down to a science.
And we just did our very first order from the food
Fort
service
Farms.
with Fort Farms for the greenhouse, and so that we're starting to start that rotation now
oh,
of, produce, and I believe they selected a variety that works well with our equipment and what we're trying to produce, that kind of stuff. So now we're starting to,
My
Little
only
process.
disappointment was that the student body kind of rejected arugula.
I know Penny too, that we had a visitor from Chicago come and we had a visit down there. They have lots of bright spot areas of how they do this, and so she's gonna spend some time there, and so I think this is only gonna just get, scale up as we get our feet wet a little bit.
right.
At the board convention also, the school district of Colby does this, and they have one of those lettuce things in the bank. I'm not asking for that, because the bank people gotta take care of that, and, and they make
this
lunches.
is our conversation. on
Yeah,
the way
I'm
home.
like, holy smoke, they make lunches for the community then they're making tacos next week,
The
and
cool
using the lettuce.
Penny's we're looking for a host family right now. She wants to build the capacity of a family to do this. Because one of the things that we find is our community garden, yes, we have an area to do it, but sometimes people don't know how to garden. They want to know how, so she's going to look for that. The second thing that we had a little brainstorming idea on is just related to what you said with housing. So in Sturgeon Bay, there was an article, they're building houses for $150,000 range for families to afford that are working class families, and they're adding in hydroponic units and rooms so that these families can.
They're building $150,000 homes?
Yep. To buy. to purchase them, the value of the home
Oh.
to purchase, $150,000.
Not the unit.
Sorry, not,
Okay.
not
No.
150,000 homes, 150,000 value.
Yeah, $150,000 homes.
Yes, there you go. I'll send you the article, or Nick, did I send it to you? Yeah. It's a pretty good idea.
It was, I found it interesting and I thought, oh God,
Yeah, there you go.
yeah,
On your day off, you could do.
yeah, I'll be picking lettuce here.
I thought, I said, pull up in a drive-through, make a deposit and be like, hey, I'll take a salad too, and,
Well, I
right?
do, I mean, they did salad, I mean, it was
I
like,
could give some green, get some green.
good something, yeah.
Okay, on that
man.
note, we are going to move on to Katie.
I don't know if I can follow that, but.
That was half of our ride home, right?
It was, I mean, I was just floored, and the employees make the meal,
Yeah,
which was like, yes,
so here it comes, Algoma.
no, I talked to Brenda about that one,
So if you miss an ingredient, does it call the deficit?
I'm not sure.
All right, Katie,
All right.
please rescue us.
Rescue us from this.
Well, I don't know if this will count as rescuing, but with the end of the semester comes the annual semester review for our achievement gap reduction goals. The first page is math. As you can see, we're making nice progress towards our goal. Keep in mind that the percentages are based off of the end of the year benchmark. So the way that the assessments work is there's a fall, a winter, and a spring. They change, they increase throughout the year. So all of these numbers are based on the end of the year. So it does not represent the number of students at benchmark for this time of the school year. So that's math. Reading on the other side, again, moving along nicely. For both math and reading, first grade, I put 2 asterisks next to that one. Not all of the students have completed that just yet. We have some teachers who are battling some long flu symptoms, so they've kind of been in and out of the classroom, so they're still working on finishing assessing their final students. And then lastly, attached to that, I kind of just wanted to give a snapshot of some other things that I think are worth capturing. I always feel like the AGR program kind of focuses on all of the things that our students are not able to do, and I just kind of wanted to highlight a couple of things that I think are just as important, if not more important, than focusing on, the deficit piece. So just a couple of things. We do have 76% of our students in kindergarten through 3rd grade that are currently at the winter benchmark, so that's a huge positive. We have 57 students total in all kindergarten through 3rd grade that are served in our title program. There's a little note under there that says that all 38 kindergarten students receive daily support in class from our title teachers. So, I think it's been a huge positive the way that some of our programs are kind of aligning a little bit better and thinking differently about how to best service our students and support them. And kind of honing in on some of the grade levels that maybe are more crucial when it comes to developing readers. The third one down is 14, so that represents the number of students in grades 1 through 3 that have been dismissed from title already this year. So typically a student who, at the fall or winter, if they show that they are, not meeting benchmark and, maybe need a little extra reading support, they might work in a small group with a teacher, or they might get individual support. And kind of as they improve and grow, then they don't necessarily need that as a support anymore. So we've had 14 students, and that seems like a small number, but I would say probably in the 6 years that I've been here, I don't know that we've had 14 students total up until this year. So I think that that's a huge positive. And then the last one I also wanted to point out, 13, that represents the number of students in kindergarten through 3rd grade that are currently receiving regular enrichment in reading or writing. Again, I feel like the AGR program sometimes focuses on the kids that need the extra support and what are we doing for the kids that need the extra support. But we have 13 students who are joining a different grade level for reading, writing, content that's above grade level, So those are definitely some positives with that program that I thought would be worth
Yeah.
highlighting along with the goals that we are required to do, so. It's positive. We,
Before you go on, do
Yeah.
you have any concerns about second grade math, with the needle not really moving?
I don't, and the reason for that is because if you look at each individual grade level, the massive amount of skills that they learn in any given school year is huge. So if we're looking at second grade, by the end of second grade in math, they're doing multi-digit addition, multi-digit subtraction. And that's, obviously those are end of the year benchmarks, so that's not even anything that they have had necessarily exposure to. They start dabbling in multiplication, division, so all those things, come as the year goes along. So, while that number has stayed the same, they just have not had instruction in that at all at this point in the school year. And the other one, if we're looking at numbers that kind of stand out, if you look at the kindergarten, under reading on the second page, that looks alarming, but if you think of the massive amounts of learning that a kindergarten student does, over the course of the school year, they kind of transition through, first identifying letters, then letter sounds, then they start blending those sounds together, then they start nonsense words, and those aren't things that they necessarily, there's a very, very small percentage of students that start that way in kindergarten, so it's hard to represent accurately, which is why I've kind of been trying to find other numbers and other ways to show the positives too, because,
Again, testing.
yeah,
Yeah. Testing
Yep.
doesn't necessarily show progress
Yep.
or, how we want to define success.
yeah, and especially with our, when we're talking 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, they don't know what they don't know, kind of thing, for the most part, so until they're exposed to that content, it's difficult to assess that, because,
I'm thinking in terms of if we present it to them as a class challenge, are they aware of where they need to be or anything of that nature to get investment from the student, even at a young age? And working through it, not just with the teacher, but also with students who seem to get it and maybe can explain it differently, so that they can get it. That's the part that I'm thinking about, because I look at the class size and coaching, and thinking that you may have the opportunity to have coaching be a norm, sort of a collaboration among the students to reinforce the more difficult concepts, but taking kind of a slightly different approach to it. So,
I would rather see it more of a rungs on the ladder approach, where here's all these rungs that we want to get to, and it's perfectly, we're right on track in January if we're on the third rung, right? To me, it tells a different story. It's about growth and one step at a time getting
Right.
there, right? Versus, yep, only 40% of you are.
40% of our
You know, it
year-end
just
goal.
kind of-
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I'm trying to take this.
I think that's
and
what Katie's trying to say
Look
too.
at
is
it,
just-
twist it slightly, look at it differently, approach it maybe in a different way.
any other questions on that?
I don't think so.
All right, a couple other short things. We do have our early childhood screening days set now, so that would be the evening of February 20th and then the morning of February 21st. So that's for 2 to 4-year-old children living in the district. There is a link online to register for that. You can also sign up just by calling the school. So if anybody is interested in that, families have been mailed the information, but if that did not reach them, they can contact the school at any time. Miss Nevue, Megan Nevue, our music teacher, she organized the Green Bay Gamblers Dash for Cash. That was held on January 18th. Her sister, Tiffany, who is a special ed para at the elementary school, ended up being the one dashing for the cash. But Megan put this kind of summary sheet together for us. She jointly, they raised a total of $781. So 331 is what Tiffany dashed for at the event. And then we sold over 100 and she sold over 150 tickets to Algoma students and families. So the school received a percentage of those ticket sales. So we received another $450 from that. She's going to use that money to purchase a class set of ukuleles. So, and because we had 150 people attend, we guaranteed our spot for next year's Dash for Cash. So, Megan also sang the national anthem right before the start of the game. And then she received a nice email from the organizer of the event who said that Algoma had a very nice showing of support. So he had thanked us for participating and showing our school spirit. So I just wanted to share that. I thought that was something fun.
The strategies of collecting the cash was.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you remember the one where they were like laying down, taking their shirt?
Yeah,
This picture doesn't do it justice.
No,
There were-
it was
no.
hard to capture
It was the
that.
best thing to watch. How
There
many
was-
educators were there? I think probably 200.
I thought over 25, well,
I would say 20.
Out on the collecting the cash, I think there was 30.
30,
And
yeah.
there was $12,500 in
Yep.
$1 bills. And so they
Yes.
were,
And they all had the
This
same
one,
shirts.
like-
Yeah.
Like basically belly flopped in this pile of cash and just kind of like was doing like backwards like snow, like an angel, snow angel, right? And she was like trying to like bring the cash into her shirt and like it was,
That's
yeah,
really
it
good.
was great.
chickens like pecking me up.
It was an interesting theory.
Yeah. And then there are others that had a totally different approach and some kind of just waited for the end until and then they just walked behind the people and as there was a cash was falling out of the other ones, they were just grabbing it. It was kind of good.
It was fun.
So, all right, a quick assessment update. So with this time of year also comes the start of some of our state assessments. The ACT is scheduled for March 3rd, a huge positive. Students no longer are required to take the work keys, the ACT work keys, so that's not something that the school district is responsible for anymore. It's just the ACT on March 3rd, so that was huge. And then I saved the best for last. A huge congratulations to Jamie Robinson, our second grade teacher, on being named a Golden Apple Teacher of Distinction.
All right. Go Jamie Robinson.
Yes, so she is being contacted to enter the interview round, and more will come in the next month or so to see how that goes, but
Yeah, that's wonderful.
absolutely. That's all I have.
Questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to you, Jason. Business Manager's Finance Bulletin Report.
Okay, we'll start with, the very first sheet, in your packet is the County tax settlement. I give this to you guys every year just to show, basically the breakouts for our district and also the breakouts for the other districts in 2020. You can see where our funding comes from, and what percentages we're getting, that kind of stuff. So, on the far left-hand column is what we levied. Then you can see our January payment, and then we'll get a little bit in February, and then we won't actually get our final payments until next school year. So, that's how it works. So, any questions with that? Like I said, I just like to give it to you guys just so you can sort of see us and districts, and then specifically, you know, our townships and what we're getting from them and what we're getting from the city now. So,
I'd like to see another business try and function on this first amount and then waiting until the following year for the balance, which is more.
yeah, correct.
Yeah. Interesting financing for school systems.
Yeah. So, the next item that I have for you guys is, so our last, revenue worksheet that we did, and when we taxed for this year, we did a program called defeasance. You guys are pretty familiar with it, we've been doing it pretty often lately. So we defeased $400,000. So at this time, I am suggesting that we go ahead and, basically go through the process of defeasing and, purchasing callback bonds. I include the information from Baird, and a time, approximate timeline. So basically, we got an additional 400,000. We're gonna be repaying debt that has a call date of 2024. Funds will be deposited in escrow account. And basically by doing that, we'll save an additional $103,464. Not to mention $11,000 this year in interest. By doing callbacks. So as you can see, defeasance, you start to build more and more. So if you flip the page, it's actually really good news because we've been doing this for a couple of years now. You'll see two basically columns, before defeasance and after defeasance. But you'll see that we've paid off completely 2 years. So if you look at that column there, and our last year now will just be a payment of 60,000. So we're slowly removing our debt quicker than just letting it go up, plus saving interest. Obviously, the sooner you pay off debt, the more interest you save. So this is what it would look like. There is a cost for going through this. The cost is $13,400. I did run the numbers, if it made sense to not process the money this year, and, cause I can wait 2 years, and wait till possibly us defeasing again next year, and then processing that, payment at one time. So our cost would only be $13,400, and we could do it 2 years, except that we lose that interest savings.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense. So I ran the numbers. It's not a huge difference, we're talking a couple thousand, but it's still cheaper, even though it costs $13,400 to do it. It still makes sense when we're talking 400,000, that dollar amount, to do it on a yearly basis. So, mainly because of that interest. So, if it's okay with you guys, I will continue with this timeline that Baird laid out. And then you guys will have the final say, obviously, but it sort of shows you that I'll get the lawyers together, get the paperwork together, and we will actually present it to you sometime in March, the March meeting. So,
Looks good.
the next one after that is, as you guys know, we have been working with McKin Street to refurb, the school district, especially particularly the high school, with, looking at our boilers, control systems, our hot water systems, windows, roofs, all that type of, basically, structural elements at the school district. So we had 2 contractor walkthroughs, one on the 23rd and one today. So we had a pretty good turnout for contractors. It was actually really nice to see. Bids will be due the 13th of February, so they'll have to give us our final bids. The 17th, we'll review the bids and actually formalize exactly what work is being done. So I have them not only bidding on boilers, but I'm having them also bid on certain options. Do we replace, so one of our pumps, that circulates the water in the school district, is original from '68. Okay, it's working fine right now. We will get no benefit by replacing it. But what would be the cost of replacing it if we did it as part of the project, or we had to do it outside the project?
Sure.
To bring someone in after,
Mm-hmm.
just looking at those cost differences. So we'll have a bunch of different options, and we'll be able to look at what makes sense and what doesn't. Sometimes, having contractors here and having them doing a little additional work is cheaper than actually having them come back and do that work. Or, for example, this pump we're talking about, we may have to tear out part of a wall. So,
That's what I was gonna ask.
yes, so it might make more sense to do it all in one, that type of thing, so. So we'll look at that kind of stuff. The 24th of February, I will present the contracts, the options to you guys. And then basically that night I'll ask for final approval, both for contractors and scope of work. March, April, we'll award the contracts. April and May, we'll get the materials, they'll start to show up on site, that type of thing, start to buy the stuff. And then as soon as school's out, May, June, they'll begin to work. August, September, they should have everything completed. We will run some stuff into the school year that won't affect classrooms and that kind of stuff, so firing up the boilers, that kind of stuff. They need to wait till the temperatures are low enough to make sure, for when they fire them up, that kind of stuff, but, we should be good to go. We are also changing, some of the, I guess, concepts in the building. In 1968, and I'm making an assumption here, but I'm assuming energy was cheaper, it wasn't a big deal. So, for example, in this building, we heat all the water in the boiler room, we use all the water, well, a majority of the water in the kitchen, okay, for the dishwashers and all that kind of stuff. We're basically going across the building. Same with locker rooms. We heat the water in the boiler room here, but we go past the gym and basically all the way to almost the opposite side of the school where the locker rooms are to use the water. So, nice thing with McKinstry in that is they did monitoring of our usage, both for heat, water, and all that kind of stuff. They had sensors all around the school for a couple weeks, looking at who's using it, what time they're using it, that type of thing. So with that determination, they found out that it makes a lot more sense to heat the water in the boiler room for the bathrooms and that kind of thing, but to put a totally separate loop for that side of the building, for specifically in the kitchen. So actually that's where the
Lose
next
all the
heating
heat
system
on the way.
Correct. Not only that, right now, we heat water in the boiler room to about 120 degrees. We circulate it to the kitchen. When it gets to the kitchen, it's about 110 degrees. Then we have to, because that's not a legal heat amount to do dishes. So then what we do is we have to heat the water again in the kitchen to use it for the dishes. Well, now that they have no heat system there, this loop will run on 120 degrees, that loop will run on 140 degrees. So we won't have to reheat the hot water again.
Right.
Would a demand heater in the kitchen work as well?
Well, that's basically,
And is that what you're essentially talking about?
essentially doing, yes.
Is decreasing the distance to 0 and setting it at 140 so that it can go right in
Correct.
and be usable?
Yes, it's gonna be literally, it's gonna be 10 feet from the dishwasher.
Perfect.
That-
Yeah,
That's important for a lot of different reasons.
yeah. So it was interesting having history, like I said, in here and looking at the stuff, looking at our usage. They found out that, most of our univents, do not actually adjust for night or are stuck, either open or closed, which means they're either heat's on or off, there's no, mix of a temperature. So if the boilers are calling for heat, or if the room's calling for heat, if it's calling for heat at 10 o'clock at night, and there's no one here, it's still coming, and it still, does that, so, they were able to show me with the data loggers that they had that, basically, we spend a lot of money heating things when no one's here, and or we're not, instead of heating them at 50% usage, it's either 0 or it's 100. So it's interesting.
When they were looking at our water supply system, were they looking for any dead zones where the water wasn't really moving and?
At the district here, we have no dead zones because we continually pump it. So we have a pump in the boiler room. We pump the water through the pipes, whether we're using them or not.
Okay.
Doesn't matter, the pump never stops.
Okay.
So we're continually pumping this water. Well, at 1 o'clock in the morning, does it pay to pump water through these pipes when there's no one here to use it? So they looked at all that. There is no dead loops. I know what you're saying,
Good.
yes. Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
we don't want a dead loop.
Correct.
That's when you end up with other issues.
Correct. So no, they're all loops. So
Good.
basically, we would separate the loops. So. One other thing I need to mention to you. And I don't know what everyone's feeling is on this, and that kind of stuff, is, the round one of grants for solar are due, February 7th of this year. Basically, I'm looking for direction and should I apply for these grants? Does not mean we're committing to it. The only thing it means is you get one shot at applying for the grant. If you don't take it, you can't like reapply. So the question is, do I wait for round two till we know a little bit more? Do you want me to apply right now and get it done with? Is solar something that we want to postpone? I will tell you that they have told me already that next year's grants will not nearly be what this year's grants are. In the large scheme of things, we're only talking about $40,000 to $80,000. It's a lot of money, but it's not, how can I say this? When you're talking this scale of a project, it's not like a
Huge.
yeah, it's not like a, well, that just made a decision for us type thing. So I'm looking for guidance on that. I will do what you guys tell me to do.
What's the harm of doing it?
If we apply for round one, and let's say we we will. He basically told me we'll get the grant. We have until December 31st to have the equipment on site. If we don't have it, the equipment on site by December 31st, we can no longer apply for the grant the following year. We'd have to have a 1-year waiting period, and then we could apply for the grant again. Now, there are gonna be 2 rounds. Obviously, like I said, the first one is February. They only have X amount of cash, so obviously being into the first round is good, but doesn't mean that we can't wait till round 2 and still stand a chance to gain some money. It might be a little harder, but if we don't get it, we still can apply in round 1 of the following year.
If the grants are still available.
If the grants are still available, oh, they'll be available, they already told me they're gonna be available. It all depends on what the funding level is. They know they're gonna be cut, they just don't know how much they're gonna be cut.
Which is crazy, they should be increasing for this kind of alternative energy, not decreasing, but that's sort of the way everything is in this country
Correct.
right now.
So you only have to have the equipment on site, you don't have to have it completed.
I don't have to have equipment on site.
Well, what was, I mean, I'm all for moving towards solar here in a way that makes sense. And McKinstry had some options for us, correct?
Yep.
That the building and grounds looked at, correct?
Seems hard to find a negative, might have to do it, right?
Yeah, what's your thoughts, Dave?
We'll do whatever we can to get the grant. I'm having a hard time understanding Jason tonight completely, but I'm gonna call him tomorrow. But
Yeah, I'm sort of in favor of that as well. We should just go for the grant at the largest dollar amount we can possibly get and see what happens.
Yeah, it's not a commitment. If all of a sudden numbers don't make sense to us, don't work out, it's not a commitment. It's just we're applying for the grant.
Yeah, yeah.
I say go ahead.
Because when we met, we discussed a little bit about solar options available and whether or not that would make sense and what the return on investment timeframe was. And we found that to be pretty favorable. You throw in the grant piece of it, it makes it even more favorable as far as I'm concerned. That's why I wanted to hear from Dave, to see if he remembered it the same way.
And then this way, we know what the cost will be, because once they award the grants, then we obviously know what the final number is gonna be.
True. Well, my feeling is go for it.
Go for it.
Sounds like Dave feels the same way.
The last thing I got for you is, key benefits concepts. I have given you the entire report. I will just cover the highlights. If you have questions on it or whatever, feel free to give it to me. So key benefits, just a little background information. They are our legal company that we have to look at our OPEB. So every 2 years, we have to have actuarials look at our OPEB and say, yay or nay, we're doing a good job, basically is what it comes down to. And they determine, one, how much money we are forced, I shouldn't say forced, encouraged to put in for OPEB. Two, they determine something called implicit rate, which is what the benefit of our retired people getting for being on our insurance with the young people.
This is, before we go any further, OPEB, does that stand for other post-employment benefits?
Correct.
Okay, I
Yep.
wanna make sure that that was clear, 'cause I'm going, what the heck is OPEB?
OPEB, yes, so the good news is, we've obviously been in a very good position with OPEB for a while. This is what I do through Nickel Bank. They manage our OPEB trust. I meet with them at least on a yearly basis, and I talk to them fairly often, because what we can do with OPEB is we can invest that money. And the better, obviously, the better investments we do, the longer we preserve OPEB, the less, or maybe not, what the school district has to contribute. So I work with them pretty closely on what we can invest in. Obviously, we're pretty restricted, so on risk, but we still have options in OPEB. A lot of the school district money, you have no options, it's just basically savings account. But with this, we have a few more options, that kind of stuff. So very first page, you'll see that there's a baseline -1, baseline +1, and discount rate baseline. I'm just gonna go through the baseline, because everything in this document, here again, is a guess. It's not actuarial. They're just doing a study, and they're taking guesses. So if we look at our baseline, our liability in 2018 was $994,392. And if you go down, our liability in 2019 is $998,583. So our liability hasn't gone up much at all. And reasons why your liability goes up, generally, since we're not allowing anyone into the pool at this point, is your people got older, so they're closer to retirement. That's why your liability went up. So if we flip the page, you'll see our net position. So balance in 2018, our position was, we had $1,320,630. So at the very end, crawling across the line there on the top, is we were positive, it's a negative number, but it's positive for us, of $326,238. So we were overfunded by $326,000. If you go to the bottom line, you'll see that you'll see the liability again of $998,583. Our position is $1,305,802, and our overfunding is at $307,219. Okay. If we flip the page twice, so what we're doing is we're looking for table 4. In the lower right corner, you'll see there's
Yeah.
OPEB table, and we're looking for OPEB table 4. We're just gonna deal with the column that's for 2019. You'll see our costs up in top. So basically our costs, benefit payments that we paid out for 2019 were $95,784. You can see our change in liability. So you got your OPEB liability ending, $998,583 again. Down below, you'll see that we had a net investment income of $80,956. So obviously with our payments, our benefit payments of $95,784, we we actually only had to pay out $14,828.
Sweet.
Yes. So that's where basically our net OPEB liability ending is the $307,219. Another thing to call your attention to is the percentages at the bottom. In 2016, we were basically 104% funded. In 2017, we're 103.54 funded. In 2018, we jumped to 132% funded. And this last year, we're sitting at 130% funded. So we've been really able to basically jump our funding. So we're basically, fully funded is at 100%. So we're basically now sitting at 30% over fully funded. So we're in a very good position with our OPEB.
So do we have required payments even if we are overfunded like
We do.
this?
Yep.
Okay,
So we are required to put in all the money that we receive from our retirees. So we usually do that in February. We put all the money in that we receive from the retirees. And then generally speaking, you can withdraw it immediately. We don't. We actually let it in the investments and make money on that money. And then we pull it out, usually if we don't need the cash, which generally we don't, we pull it out on June 29th, one day before I have to, so. And then that's how that works. We are not required to contribute any more money beyond what our retirees pay us.
okay.
So, obviously the actuarial goes through and lays out all kinds of stuff and breaks it down for the, 10 years to come or 15 years to come and all that kind of stuff. But basically, we're doing pretty good with that. Any questions on key benefits and our OPEB? From projections, we should have no issues meeting our obligations at all. And then the last thing is, I have the fiscal update that I give you every month attached at the end.
Very nice. Any questions, comments? All right, thank you, Jason. Okay, let's keep going. Special Ed Report Pathfinder Update, Katie Horn.
Okay, for special ed, this month, in February, we have a group of elementary students, going to the Widener Center for a show. They did it last year. It's a bunch of our kids who need one-on-one assistance, so it's always, really fun to get them out and exploring. I know they took them to McDonald's after last year. The show is, book live. It's a snowman book. I'm not really sure what it is, but, that'll be fun. Crochet club is going great. Andrea sent me some pictures today that I'll forward on. I think they have 6 or 8 shawls made that they'll be donating to the seniors in Algoma. They're actually really cool, and the kids did an amazing job on them. I was super impressed. And the students that are in her club are very an interesting group of students, so it's going really well. I sent out a survey to parents to see if there was a parent or any sort of interest to start a parent group that have some of our students with disabilities, and I've gotten quite a few back. So it looks like there's a big interest. So I'm meeting with Pastor Jen tomorrow. She is the pastor at the Methodist Church, and she has a son with disabilities, and she, I think, was the head of a chapter down in Milwaukee for a parent group. So I'm really excited to get that started. Hoping to have the first meeting sometime in February. And I'm gonna just kind of, let the parents tell me what they wanna know about, and, we know how important being able to connect with others is. So that's really what I want the group to be about, is just being able to connect with one another, and hopefully form some cool relationships out of that. And the last thing for special ed is we are in our audit year, that happens every 5 years. So this summer I'll be doing a lot of work pulling different IEPs, to make sure we're in compliance. But we had our first part of the audit, which was for timely initial assessments. We were in 100% compliance with that, so I was
Excellent.
pretty proud of that. For Pathfinder, they had their last karate class today, so all the kids who participated got their white belts. Really cool experience for them. Even their belt ceremony was pretty cool. So they really enjoyed that. We have our Oshkosh prison tour coming up in 2 weeks. Some kids are pretty nervous and some are excited that have gone before, so that'll be good. And then Lexi is partnering with Paul's Pantry in Green Bay and the YMCA in Sturgeon Bay. She sent me a whole bunch of dates that the kids are going to be volunteering mornings in both of those places. So I think she sent me like 10 different dates today between February and March that the kids will be getting out and about to go volunteer. So things
Wonderful. Sounds good. Questions or comments? Okay, we're gonna keep moving. The Algoma monthly update, Teal.
I just had an article in the packet and I never received it, so it was an older date from October, but it was the time that we were represented in Madison, so you can read that. It's a good overview, I think, just showcasing the work that we're dedicated to across systems, knowing that education is more than just academics. So that's a really good highlight of the work that's going on and what they're showcasing at a state level with Algoma in it. And then alongside of that, my only other real report out is we were getting the report card together, or the board summary together, and it really challenged us to think about our youth change agents and think about our journey in the last 5 years. We've been asked from some of our national partners, especially the Transformational Youth Network, how many youth change agents that we've had, and so a team of us were talking about what that definition is. So when we use the word youth change agent, what do we actually mean by that? And so we define it as students enrolled in the Algoma School District who design, plan, implement, lead, and or improve initiatives in the Algoma School District community. And we sent this out to some of our staff. We have 17, in the last 5 years, we have 17 student-led initiatives that are still sustainable today, that have either improved internally or both internally and in our community. And of that, we've had 77 Algoma Youth Change Agents. It's now we're actually putting another layer on this and going back, but of that we have 7 of those students who continuously are coming back and who want to work for our district. Some of them are already working for our district in different capacities or are thinking about careers that will align to an education system or can align. So it's intriguing to see that over time how that's been changing. And I know Brenda just took some data from our SABRE scores, that's social, emotional, academic behaviors, and really has been looking at that from an emotional level for some of our students. And it seems that the students that are identified as Algoma Youth Change Agents, their emotional well-being is high, so meaning they're doing very well in that area. So I think that, over time we're gonna start to be able to see some of this stuff. And so I was happy that we were kind of forced to look at that, because I don't know that we would have done that otherwise. So that's it. Oh wait, and Symposium Day. We do have some selected days, May 11th, 12th, 13th.
Those are what days?
It's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Monday, May 11th will be some sort of reception. The 12th will be a gathering at Titletown for a look at some of our work at a high level. And then the 13th will be a tour. And we will be charging, and we will have no more than 50 participants. It'll be very small and intimate. And that's all I know right now.
Excellent.
There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle on that one,
Yeah.
but I'm sure Nick will be able to tell you more
good. Questions for Teal? Okay, I don't think we had any committees. Neat. Other specific items for discussion. Board mini retreat, schedule, location. We have done it in February, we have done it in March. I don't know.
When I was at Dave's today, said that he would be happy to host. So I
Dave,
think-
is Nick telling the truth here? That you would?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'd sooner do it in March and February though, after
Okay.
daylight savings time.
okay,
Oh.
all right.
I'm game for that.
I think since two of our members are, not with us tonight, and since you would prefer March and you have generously offered your home for the setting, why don't we, sort of table this and finalize it at next month's meeting? And people can sort of be thinking about it. And if you have any particular dates that work best for you, Dave, let us know.
Okay.
All right. Moving on, convention highlights. Anybody want to say anything more about their experience at the convention?
Couple of us went to the Baraboo School District, report of their media fiasco that they had, which was very interesting, spellbinding for almost an hour long. They told us of the drama of all the media camping out in their town and their school district, and all the things they learned that could happen to any one of us at any time. And the structure that they realized they had to have in place to support one another was very, just, spellbinding almost, how they dealt with it. And they brought in community members and all their staff and all their administrative staff, and it was, we, in the news heard a lot about it all the time, but to hear them talk about the trenches that they were in during that time, and it's not over. It's not over. And it just was very, I don't know, your heart just goes out to them, and all that they've been through. So, it was a very much of a diversion from the other part of the convention, but it was very interesting, very spellbinding.
I don't know if everybody in the community knows what we're talking about, but there was a picture taken, I think the afternoon of prom, and some of the students there are differing stories of how it happened, end up giving a Nazi salute. 6 months later, that went viral.
Literally overnight.
Yeah, and then everything just went sideways in terms of what may have been a prank on the part of the students that was captured and then picked up from the photographer's account and was spun in such a way as to portray Baraboo as one very racist town. And the final thing that they're facing right now is a federal lawsuit. So, if someone were to take a picture of our students at any given time, including at a game that went out on social media, and how that could or could not be misinterpreted,
One moment in time.
And the lifetime of.
and generalizing, everyone is traumatized, and they're trying their very best to keep the students who were in that pictures, their identity, under wraps, so that they are not, when they go for job applications, school applications, often there's a social media search component to that. And the concern is that this will have lifelong.
They didn't even put their pictures in their yearbook.
Yep.
So that no
Right.
one could
Kids have
try
never
and
been
compare it.
identified.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Because someone could take that picture, match it with the picture in the yearbook with the name, and identify the students in that way.
Because they've been getting threats and
Oh, yeah.
hate mail and.
Death threats.
Just
Death threats and
It
hate
just-
mail,
Yeah, just
lots of it.
thousands. of
Joanne, did
thousands.
they have any, I mean, did they offer like a strategy for that? I mean, do you have any?
Well, they learned day by, I mean, they laid it out day by day, every day what they did from was it 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning when the superintendent got the email telling her what was happening. So they showed us day by day what they did and what they learned along the way as well, to seek help, to include the police. I mean, it was just,
Well, one of the things you shared, because I did not go to that one, I was at a different one, but several of our members did go to it, and they all seemed pretty blown away when they were talking about it. But it was not to try and make some kind of public statement right away.
and no one makes statements. because it's all-
That basically,
it's so-
no comment at this time, because it just ends up, everybody starts twisting your words and it makes it worse. And not to have the community try and respond to all of the negative worldwide attention by trying to say how great the district is and all of that, right?
Right.
That ended up also being counterproductive. So your sort of natural instincts of wanting to jump to the defense of your district and your community, when it becomes this worldwide
A
phenomenon,
global
yeah.
news coverage globally.
So some of those things,
Yeah, I mean, what starts off as a prank can end up being just a nightmare. And I think all of us who attended kind of figured that we would have probably taken some of the same measures as the superintendent took and the board took and the chief of police took. And it's sort of a situation where everything you know is wrong. And it's a confusing situation to be in. I think those of us who once said, thank God it wasn't us, I think that was
that was the-
everybody else was thinking. Because it could happen to any school district.
well, that's the thing about the internet and social media now. It's
I just say
such an
nothing.
advantage, it's such a disadvantage.
Everyone say
depending.
nothing.
I think that's something that we really need to think about as a district, because even if you take Facebook and let's say parents comment about something and you have staff that engage in it, even
Yes.
if you engage in by an emoji or any comment, whether it's a comment of support or not,
It's
it
misconstrued.
it misconstrues and people, I think it's something that we really need to build the capacity of our staff to recognize and be aware of and have strategies to help that. I think that, I just see like what our administration have to deal with in social media and it's only gonna get worse. And yes, pictures taken at a moment in time can tell lots of
And
stories and so.
What can be downloaded from
Yeah.
your, this is always on, the camera is always on, no matter where you are.
Mm-hmm. Great,
Lives forever changed,
yeah.
many.
So, yeah, that was a worthwhile one to go to.
I think part of that too is that you have entire businesses now set up for communications specific to schools. And my guess, having not been there, that they may or may not have engaged with one of those businesses.
They had a communication director,
Yes.
Yeah. And
still,
Yeah, and she was.
they were unable to get any type of grasp on that. And I think Teal, presents an interesting, this happens here. And one of the things that we get is, well, Nick, what's on Facebook isn't real. I mean, I've had people tell me that, okay? And I have had, all sorts of things on Facebook where they want to criticize this, elevate that, advocate for this, do this. And I think our staff, school board, administration, everybody needs to be aware of the intended consequences and even more aware of the unintended consequence of a smiley face on a parent's critique of our school district. That's very negative, right? What does that say? And in the right hands of somebody somewhere in this country or in world,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That becomes the talking point or the cloud, if you will, over your school district for the foreseeable future. And my guess is that person would be, well, that's not a big deal. That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that people understand that. I think a lot, I mean, I deal with social media with students who, that's just part of their daily lives. And when you talk about those are your words, they don't disappear.
Mhm.
Nobody else wrote that, you wrote it, right? You know, I think, I would love for you as a school board to come in front of our staff and talk about that, because in Baraboo, again, who are the targets, right? My guess is that the actual students are not the targets. It's administration, teachers, who took the picture, all these different entities that surrounded it. And I think it's a good lesson, it's a good reminder about etiquette and professionalism. And if you see something, say something, you know?
Or don't.
Right, in
Don't
this
say
case,
something.
because as you were talking about this, I'm thinking about any type of crisis,
Mhm.
right? They teach all of us, be transparent, do not create something, tell them exactly what happened, right? And then in this scenario, they're saying
Everybody.
everybody. So mobilizing silence is an interesting endeavor.
Again, the whole world is changing around us so quickly with technology and communication, and, I mean, that's why education and, you know, everything, all the rules are changing everywhere, and, yeah,
It
this,
redefined the community's identity.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I saw it first on a site that is basically, certainly United States wide. I'm on a lot of different, email kinds of, and so it was like, whoa, Baraboo. Jeez, what are they doing there? I mean, it's your first inclination. If all you see, and all they had was the picture and Baraboo, Wisconsin, I'm like, whoa, you know, and again, no real history behind it, but yeah, with the interpretation, of course, of the, you know, that this was very negative, so yeah. So yes, I think that is something we should try and figure out the best way to approach, but
Well, I went to
reinforce here.
a session on the XYZ generation and how the differences, you know, from the baby boomers, and it was really kind of interesting, me being a baby boomer and my kids being at whatever they are and my grandkids being Z. But it's, I mean, they came right out and said, to the Z generation, Facebook is family. That is family to them, so they're gonna put it all out there. And they don't understand the repercussions, cause it's family.
And when,
again, it's that unintended consequence piece
I
where,
think we shut the Facebook
I
down.
mean, nobody probably thought about the whole yearbook thing initially, right?
Oh.
But
No,
then
not
all of a
initially,
sudden,
it
But
was,
the media director did a great
as
job.
they were about to, they kind of went, whoa, stop, don't do that. So what they did is that they put a collage of the senior class and put all of the names underneath
They're
it.
the Thunderbirds, so they use that as their motif to put all the
So
collages
that-
of the kids' pictures.
The senior class was represented, but you couldn't identify each one individually from their picture with their name under it, as you normally see in a yearbook. So, I went to a couple of presentations that talk more and more about enabling students to solve school issues, and I asked them, what about having students help solve community issues? And they said, might be a good idea. So, but it was, a lot of the things that we were doing. It's a reinforcement of a lot of the things that we're already
An
doing.
affirmation of what we're doing.
Yeah, I loved our last speaker. He was probably the best. Very insightful. And one of the images that he put forth in terms of the current, basically broken educational system, you know, he's like, we have to get out of the mindset of fixing students that come in with different talents or unique talents or individual kinds of things. He said the current educational system is like trying to, a sausage maker, putting everybody in and into this sausage maker and producing sausage. You know, the same sausage for everything. And he basically ended it with that we need not only sausage, but we need
Bacon and sushi.
bacon and sushi. And yeah, I mean, obviously, that's very simplification of his whole talk, but it's an image that, you know, yeah, we need bacon and sushi along with our sausage, so our systems have to change. So, okay, I think maybe at our retreat, we can try and siphon down and see if there are some things that we feel are appropriate for action in our district, or sharing anyway, as far as concepts. All right, discussing number of regular education spaces available for 2021 school year.
So I will say we don't have any concerns about putting caps on regular education. I think all of our concerns, as you have heard, for the past 9 years, directed specifically at special education. You're also aware that just because we put a cap on a certain grade level doesn't hamper the next grade level. So what I would like to see is we cap special education space in 4th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And our reasoning behind that is we have now grade levels with in excess of 30% students with disabilities. And that, from a resource standpoint, needs to be addressed. When you have, 1 in 3 students basically requiring services, to bring in another student really kind of straps us to provide services in order to do all the things that we've outlined in our measuring what matters. So at this point in time, I would say that regular education, no caps. Special education, we would not be accepting any in 4th grade, 7th grade, or 8th grade. All their grade levels would be open.
Well, this year's current.
Okay, so it'd be 5, 8, and 9.
5, 8, and 9, okay. I think in the past, we were trying to differentiate like speech or whatever, so we're just gonna do a blanket grade level now.
So grade levels, and then we are going to keep our cap at 5 for speech, because we have that in place currently, and it's serving us well. So we'll remain consistent with speech, but we are going to add these caps in 5th, 8th, and 9th. So current 4th, 7th, and 8th graders.
And that's basically, this is for the 2021 school year.
Correct, because we'll do the same thing next year at this time.
Any concerns, questions, comments, further discussion on that? Okay. All right, we will move on to action items. I need a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of December 16th, 2019.
So moved.
So moved, Madam President.
Okay, I have a motion and a second,
Second.
made by Dave, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the bills that were in your packet as well as those presented to us tonight.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mick, seconded by Joanne. All in favor?
Aye.
Dave?
Yes.
Motion carries. I need a motion to designate the number of regular education spaces available for the 2021 school year.
So moved?
I'll
All right.
second.
And we are
No cap.
No.
designating no limit. Okay, motion made by John, seconded by Joanne. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then I need a motion to designate for special education spaces available for 2021, that we are not accepting any new students in 5th, 8th, and 9th grade, and we are keeping the speech cap at 5.
So moved.
All right, motion made by Mick,
Second.
seconded by John. Further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I need a motion to approve special use of facility request for Bay Lake Regional DI Tournament snow date on Sunday, March 1st, 2020.
I so move.
Motion made by Joanne, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by John,
Now let's discuss.
yeah.
So the tournament's on Saturday.
So we're the snow day?
It's here on Saturday. It's just in the event of cancellation from snow.
Got it.
And on Sundays, they need school board approvals.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Request for future agenda items. I think we do want to have further discussion on the school resource officer.
Safety committee.
Okay.
Yep. Here's the safety committee on that.
Do we have a date for the safety committee to meet? Okay. All right. Any other? All right, moving on. I need a motion to go into executive session under Wisconsin statute 19.85 subsections 1 C, E, F, and I for the purpose of personnel matters, hires, staffing, resignations, administrator evaluation.
I so move.
Motion made by Joanne. Second by Mick. Roll call vote. Dave?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Mick?
Yes.
I'll say yes.